Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Lean In podcast. My name is Joel and I'm here with my third best friend, Ryan.
Third. One, two. Yeah, we'll just say third. Yeah.
What's important from that is that he's in the top three, but not number one. That's what's important. But yeah, welcome back to the podcast. I don't know if you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see we kind of rebranded to Ryan and Joel Lean In. We thought that will hopefully kind of personalize our podcast a little bit more. And also there are other podcasts called Lean In. And if you typed in Lean In, you might not find us. But if you type in Ryan and Joel Lean In, hopefully you will. Also, just
we just want to be original. That's right.
We do. We want that, that original flavor to be us.
Yeah.
We want you to go to the deli and go, I want another episode of Ryan and Joel, please. That's what we want.
We want to be across every 7-Eleven and deli in Australia that you can pick out and listen to.
Merch coming soon.
Anytime that you want.
Okay, so by the way, thank you for everyone who listened and watched the first episode. Much appreciated. Just before we start, I'll introduce today's sponsor, you guys, the audience. Thank you so much for.
I was like, man, this is a shock. I didn't know we had a sponsor just yet. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you. You've been truly amazing.
And to continue showing your support, make sure to crush that like button and the subscribe button and ring the notification bell or whatever the things are these days. We're boomers. We don't understand. But today we've got
YouTube.
YouTube? Is that a platform?
Is that where you go tubing? I've been to that place before. No, I just
Jamboree. Anyway, so today on the podcast, last week we looked at video games. This week we're going to start a little bit of a venture into movies and kind of storytelling in general. Today we're going to be talking a lot about scripts as a form of starting that story-making process and what makes a good story to begin with and kind of where some of the faults can kind of creep in that process. So I'm excited, Ryan. Are you excited to delve?
Oh, I am a very excited boy for this.
Yep.
I've actually been looking forward to this because we both have experience in. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily like 10 years worth of experience, but we are fairly not professional filmmakers. I'll just put it at that.
No, we're professional film buffs.
Yeah. And we critique things and then go like, I could do it better, and then not actually do it better, but still listen to us. Lean In podcast.
And like, we've both made some content, and you learn from that how bad it was at the at the start.
Yeah, that's right.
Except this podcast, this content is perfect, 100%, all scripted. There's no dead noise or bad, or ums or anything like that. Professional podcast. All right, let's.
I would have to disagree.
I bleep. Just press the beep button. No, that's not in. That didn't make it. Okay, I think we should move into our quick facts and news story of the day, which we're not going to take 15 minutes to do this time. We're gonna make our way through it. Okay. So Ryan, give me your fun fact for today.
Yes, a group of owls, as you can see behind me, is called a parliament.
I hate everything about that.
So, if you go to Parliament, you have to be like, oh, am I seeing a group of owls or am I seeing the government? You have to distinguish that all the time. And I see the disappointment in you, Joel, and I just want to, what's going on there?
I hate everything about that fact. Firstly, I would dispute that is fun. No, it's a fun fact. It's a fun fact.
Yeah.
I kind of hate that you go that route with fun facts on this podcast, and then I just kind of like get either a statistic or some like formal fact that I like. It shows our personalities, and maybe that's why you listen to the Lean In podcast.
I'm more fun,
and I'm more boring. Okay, so my fun fact for the week. I did find a fun fact about movies, a fun statistic. I then shared it with a friend, Seb, who said that it was terrible and probably wrong. So I'm not going to use that fact anymore.
No. Okay, well, no, you have to share it now. Like if Seb is saying that's terrible, do not say it.
If this podcast episode hits 20 likes, I will share this fact. But okay, so my new fun fact that I pulled out of my butt this morning, not literally, like figuratively, is about the movie Jaws, and I feel like it's actually relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. So on Jaws, they had a real shark, like not an actual shark, but like a real modeled shark, a machine they could use to actually. I'm missing a key word. It's early in the morning. It's like 7:30 a.m. And that's why my brain's not working.
Yeah, 7:30.
But it's 5 p.m. because that's where you guys are listening to it right now. Yeah, what do you call it? An animatronic shark. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they actually had this animatronic shark, and then they took it to the water and put it in there, and it would just sink. It was way too heavy. So they had to kind of replan and rewrite, which is what we're going to be talking about today, the movie, because they wanted to show the shark a lot more in the original script for Jaws. But because they couldn't, they showed the shark a lot less, and now we get this more horror-esque film that emphasizes when we see the shark. We never see the shark for just like a throwaway shot. Like today, if you watch the shark movie today, the shark is 100% CG. You see it all the time. It doesn't look like a real shark, and you kind of get taken. Well, it does look like a real shark. It looks good, but you're kind of taken away from the fact that this thing is lurking in the shadows and whatever when you get to see the thing every 5 minutes. So Jaws had this horror element introduced, like the first scene. Spoilers for the 1975 Jaws. But when the swimmer, the female naked swimmer, I think that's what she's called in the script. I don't think she got a name. When she gets eaten in the first scene, you do not see the shark. That creates this horror element.
Wow.
And kind of puts you in it as if like, oh, I'm getting dragged under the water by what's happening? What's happening? I'm dead. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
So that's pretty. So they were in the process of making the film, and then I could almost picture the set designers or the production leads just being like, "Oh crap, our shark isn't working," and this is a movie about a shark. And
yeah, those poor people that spent months and months, right? That would have been a massive project. But I also feel like if you're gonna make a massive animatronic shark, surely part way through you did put it in the water. Like part way through the...
Yeah, like why wouldn't they test it like as... Yeah, whatever.
Maybe they did,
out
but
pretty well.
look, yeah, and we get that product today, and I guess today we're going to talk about some of the smart decisions that storytellers can make to really to really at the end of the day make a story that's memorable and really hits home. And I guess you got to look to why was Jaws such a good film. Steven Spielberg went, oh, we've got a bad shark animatronic, let's change the pace of the film. And I don't think Jaws would have been the film that it is today if you saw the rubbery shark every 2 minutes.
I would have still watched that. That would have been amazing just to
well, I mean, you can see that movie. You can go and watch the sequels to Jaws where they show the shark every 3 minutes.
Oh, I actually haven't seen the sequels to Jaws. I've only seen the first Jaws, so...
The second
Is
one's quite good as well because it's like they kind of took the momentum of the first one and just ran with it. But Jaws 3D, which we'll talk about in another episode when we talk about visual effects, has the worst visual effects shot of all time. 100%. Like I'll even show it. I reckon we show it on the video broadcast because it's so bad.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
let's move into our news stories. What have you got for us today, Ryan?
Yeah, so just recently, some scientists have they've just been baffled by outside radio bursts. So fast radio bursts that have come to Earth. That they've got these massive. You've probably seen them. These massive sort of satellite sort of things that pick up any sort of radio signals that come into Earth that are transmitting to Earth, and in 47 days, 1,652 bursts were recorded, with that, which is the highest number of radio bursts that has ever been done, that has ever been recorded ever, and they've pinned it to a dwarf galaxy. It's super far away, like ridiculously far away, and it's kind of baffled a lot of scientists because we usually get radio bursts, but not at this frequency and not at these sort of bursts. So
I know what you're suggesting, and we should do a whole episode about this. Aliens are real.
Yes,
They are coming to Earth. No, I'm right. Yeah.
No. It's my favorite thing.
I mean, we should talk about that in another episode, but I'm probably going to be. I mean, we kind of are Fox, Scully and Mulder from the X-Files. I'm the skeptic, and you're.
Oh.
Wait, that means I'm a girl. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a second. Yeah, and so they're kind of saying like, all right, maybe there's a bunch of like just really magnetic stars that are just formed or something that just keep on doing it, but it all of a sudden just ended. So, and they haven't heard that much since. So it's kind of like. What?
Well, you know what happened, right? You know what happened.
I don't want to say it, but
no. Like you know what happened. It's obvious. Another alien super race destroyed that race, and then another alien race is going to come to Earth, and they're going to be like, "Yo, there's a war in the future where we lose, and all of the galaxy is destroyed, and you now, soldiers from your time, must come forward and hold on, no, that was the Tomorrow War that I watched the other day."
Oh.
But imagine if that was real.
So you were like, oh man, I've got this cool idea for a story. That's like completely.
Oh no, bugger! I think it's been done before. Yeah. Anyway.
Just a real quick thing. I watched the most crap movie. Most crap Australian movie I have just ever seen.
Was it Ghostbusters 2016? Obviously it's not, but I just wanted to put that on the record.
That was kind of like a bit how you going. But
hey, don't mock Australian films, man.
This one I will mock. This one I even forgot the name of it. You can probably search it up and find it, but pretty much just alien invade Australia, and pretty much the aliens have to live, like, there's some good aliens and some bad aliens, and the aliens have to live with the humans, and I don't know, just all the acting. Yeah, all the acting is terrible.
Australian.
This is an Australian film. They invade Sydney. You see Sydney Harbour Bridge blow up, and the Sydney Opera House in really crappy CGI.
You've now got me like really interested. But when you started saying that, I thought you were going to rag on. I just dragged my Chrome screen across your face. I thought you were going to rag on that Aussie. I think it's an Aussie movie. Is it the Aussie movie about not the Tomorrow War? Tomorrow when the war. You know the one about where like a foreign, like a close island invades Australia, and it's like teens trying to survive the apocalypse after like a. That was good. I can't remember what that was called. If you know what it was, leave it in the
I think
comments because I'm interested.
Isn't that Tomorrow When the War Began?
Yes, that was good.
I haven't
remember.
watched it.
I remember it was good. I don't. So aliens invade Australia. You think?
Yeah, I think. Freaking in this movie, it's just the aliens look dumb. Everything looks dumb.
Wait, is it called Occupation?
Oh, it might be. When did it release? Last
2018.
Year? Nah, it was a very recent film, and
wait, has it got Tamara Morrison in it? The guy who plays Boba Fett.
oh, yes, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's called Occupation. It's an Australian science fiction film, produced by people I've never heard of. But yeah, obviously, if Tamara Morrison is in it, it's like an Aussie New Zealand bash.
Yeah.
Oh, so classic. Make an alien invasion movie. Budget $6 million.
Yes. So and it reflects it. You can so see it. I walked out. There was a whole big battle at the end of the film, and I walked out. I pretty much just was like, nah, I can't even. Look, I respect the CGI artists. I know it's heaps of work to even get one frame in.
And you're under time crunch. Like I bet, like on a movie like that, there'll be like a small studio that worked on it, and they would have had like to do a shot in a day, or like it's like it'll be real pressure because for $6 million, you're not going to get a great product. Crazy, yeah, I know. Yeah. You don't spend. And we'll talk about that in another episode about visual effects. But yeah, I think, and we'll talk about this later today, but with that kind of movie, you're biting off more than you can chew. I think, and we're going to talk about this in scripting, especially in the bit where we're going to talk about making a good story. Don't put things in your script you can't execute on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it's real bad, just a real bad idea. I'm gonna quickly move to my news story, and then we're gonna start talking about movies because we're so passionate. You can hear we want to talk about movies.
Yes, yeah. Let's hear yours.
Mine's really quick. I think it's Steve, first name Ditko, one of the creators at Marvel Comics originally. He made with Stan Lee, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man. He at the moment is suing Marvel. Over the new Spider-Man, is it No Way Home? What's the new title? No Way Home, which looks amazing and I hope is really good. But it's either him or his estate. It might be his estate because I think he's dead. Is suing Marvel, and I was having a look at some of the commentary on it. He doesn't have a good legal case. He contracted originally when he made them just for print media. So he got rights and royalties over them making more comics because obviously making the MCU was not something that they thought of back then and contemplated. But apparently this is just a thing that some of the original creators do. They sue Marvel and Disney, obviously vicariously through that, just to get to the bargaining table to go, hey, why don't you give me a bit of money now that you're really, you're still using the product that we created originally. So yeah, like Stan Lee did it while he was alive, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Creators, they deserve to get some of the value out of their product, even when they don't have a legal right to it. It's kind of a nice thing to acknowledge some of these creators and continue supporting them. After all the good work they've done, because at the end of the day, these creators have made these amazing characters we now get to see on the big screen, played by some of the biggest actors in Hollywood, and have become, household names. These superheroes. So yeah, they reckon there'll be a settlement, and they'll get paid out either incremental amounts, but because it's the estate, we'll probably get some kind of lump sum. But just thought there's quite a bit of lawsuits flying around the movie world. We've got that Scarlett Johansson lawsuit about Black Widow.
Yeah.
And we'll have to follow that and see what happens with that. But it's obviously with how money-driven films need to be, there's obviously going to be a lot of disputes that come out of them, because at the end of the day, you don't work for free. So actors, directors, whoever it is, studios, they've all got to get something out of the project to kind of go, yeah, that was a good 12 months I just spent. So, yes. Okay, why don't we move on to our first topic? Ryan, I believe you are going to lead in with some kind of juicy goodness.
Oh, yeah. Well, just script writing. I'm actually in a film class this semester, so I guess I can have a little bit of leeway of kind of leading this. But yeah, script writing is actually, I think you have to. It's always you have to keep in mind of your own ambitions. Like I've just recently filmed my little short film, and oh mate, I just like I had this sort of like this vision. I think every director, everybody in the sort of creative filmmaking business, they all have this sort of vision, and they want to see it come to fruition exactly like this. And unfortunately, like either because of just budget or just practicality, it never comes to it. You'll never see it that way.
100%.
Yeah, and that's something I just really quickly had to learn in the past couple of weeks. Yeah, I just in this film it was just like a sort of music video. Do you know Bon Iver? That he's a musical artist.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know who that is.
yeah, true. Yeah, so I was just doing one of his songs, and I was picturing like, okay, if we get like this sort of projector and put it onto the walls, and then have somebody drawing on the sort of those sort of old school projectors where you can make little adjustments, and like just shine that on one of the walls as this girl is crying there, all sorts of different things. And
whoa, you had a girl crying, man? That's kind of messed up.
Yeah, that's crucify me. It's good little
I will
entertainment. Don't actually quote me on that. I don't want a lawsuit anytime soon.
But did you find with what those kind of great ideas you're coming up with, you were hitting into it? The difficulty did you find being the transition into the real world to actually get the shot you want, and complete that project and put your creative vision from just a couple words on a piece of paper or a thought in your mind into something people can watch?
Yeah, I found that part difficult, but I think there's also it's like this, it's an ideal, like it's this sort of, you're never going to get there, but it helps you out pretty much. It helps you out to kind of, okay, we're kind of aiming for this. There's an end goal in that. We might not actually get there, but yeah. And as well as I've also, did you see that thing that I made with Mitch? I think
yes.
It's called Meet Cute.
Yeah, that's right. I was trying to think.
Yeah.
I was like, it had some. I was like, burger.
yeah. So, and that was just a quick 3-minute story of a man falling in love with a burger, like romantically falling in love with a burger,
as all good people do who taste
as all
good quality
men.
meat.
You're not a man if you don't fall in love with a burger at least once in your
life.
Whoa,
are you gonna later talk about like the lack of toxic masculinity in Lord of the Rings? I feel like this is contrary to what you just said.
Yes. I sent you that video because I disagree with that. No. Yeah, and Mitch and I, we had like these great ideas. We had heaps of cool ideas to come, get to it, and it was awesome. Like sitting down with Mitch, and Mitch had he would just be sitting there, and then all of a sudden he'd be like, "We should do this and this and this," and and we'd just write it down, and he's just great like that. He can just sit there for about 20 minutes and goes, oh, this, and problem solved and move on.
Well, that's the vision, right? At the end of the day, if you can find people to work with you on these kind of projects who have vision themselves, you kind of figure out, when you get all these ideas piled in, you can then actually go, oh, this is a good idea, or this needs a little bit of work. It's much easier to work in a group like that where everyone is passionate about it. And obviously you two are really passionate about this project, and you guys could just throw ideas into the pile and then figure out how to execute on those, which is much better than a situation, I guess, where you're sitting there and you're the only one who can really see what you want to make. And then everyone else is just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually want to ask, like, I remember in high school we did some things together, like filmmaking wise.
They should not be re-uploaded to the internet.
No, they were great. They were. I'm trying to remember what we actually made.
I remember. Were you in the Romeo and Juliet in the 21st Century video? Were you in that? I can't remember.
Oh.
I know Seb was in that because I made Seb get in like a like an old. I can't even. It was like an old garment that someone had in their English room, and we're just like, "Yep, you're running that." I think you might have. Did you film that?
I think I helped film it. I remember we brought my skateboard to film something. Like we used that as a dolly.
I can't remember.
Mate, yeah, it's been a while.
That was that video that I remember Caleb hosted, Caleb Kingston, who should come on the podcast at another time. But he was like at a desk as a host, and he was like, previously on AMC's The Walking.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no. Previously on Big Brother. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
I can't even remember like the majority of that video, but I remember that bit because it was like that at that time we were getting those like breakthrough kind of TV show stories that kind of hit with us. Obviously, The Walking Dead obviously hit a couple of us who wanted a mention of that in there, but yeah, we were in high school. We played a lot with that kind of stuff, and then the last kind of stuff I've made a couple of things for family, and then I made a couple of videos for the school, like end of year videos that I would film with VFX because that's what I do. I bite off way too much and go, I will have 20 visual effects shots in this film.
Yeah, because you don't. Do you have visual effects like experience there, or do you just kind of jump in and be like, all right, I'm just gonna try it?
I'm pretty familiar with After Effects. I can do like 2D visual effects quite easily. I haven't really delved into 3D and all of that crazy, simulations and models and animating and all of that. But yeah, if you want a good muzzle flash, hit me up. You want a muzzle flash for your short film? Hit me up.
Yeah. Can you put one now just coming out of my mouth? Like like when you get back to editing it. Not now? Like you can't just do it like magic.
I should have a live button like yeah, so making those kind of things is always fun. What's the latest thing you've worked on recently?
Yeah, well, again, that
Your short film.
Yeah, for my film class, but I think just I just love the whole process. Hey, like, it gets frustrating and it gets challenging at some points where you're just like, where you're sitting there and you're like, okay, this isn't making sense at all. Like, this is just not. I've got all these shots. Yeah, I've got all of these shots, but it just doesn't seem right. And so you have to go back into the script and go like, okay, and you change this, and then it's just a whole trial and error. But I think my favorite part is just collaborating with people. I don't think I could ever make a true film, and I think other people can relate to this as well, where like it feels just way better working with a team and working with other people who are either thinking of something else and they just go like, oh, and they bounce their idea in, and you can.
Well, you share the burden, right? There's At the end of the day, someone's going to have to go, okay, if there's a group of 3 creators and 2 have very different ideas and the third is very sitting in the middle and they have to make the call, there's obviously someone who's going to have to be like, yep, I'm the director and that's where we're going with it. But when you have that idea bounce around, you really do share that creative burden, and you're able to go, oh, Ryan just said something good there, I really like that idea, but what if we, and then you kind of, the burden of actually coming up with an amazing idea isn't sitting with one person. You can kind of get an idea out of someone and go, oh, that's funny, how does that connect to the story? What if we and you get those you're taking everyone's creative waves and directing them to the project. I guess we can kind of segue here for a second, and then we'll kind of come back to maybe the Lord of the Rings stuff you might want to talk about at some point. But that's what you're saying about feeling a disconnect, and being like, where did these little unique pieces kind of go? I feel like more movie studios need to have that same feeling when they watch their projects for the first time.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
So I'll just quick throw down. I think this is a massive issue with Suicide Squad 2016.
Oh yeah. Oh, here we go.
That film does not hit well at all.
Definitely not.
It doesn't hit anyone well. Well, it might hit people well that have never... No, if you like Suicide Squad and know nothing about the characters, it was okay. It was okay. It was like a 6 out of 10. But it has this issue, right? A fundamental issue of... we don't care. There was not like it didn't start with a foundation where it was like, okay, this is like... these are really dynamic characters and this is what we're going to be doing. They kind of just, they cut between a bunch of characters, this ragtag team, and spoilers, then just kill one of the random people. And they're like, oh, this is the threat, the chip in the brain. Spoilers for Suicide Squad ahead.
Who cares? They've rebooted it anyway, so.
But yeah, you've got to start with that really strong character foundation and go, okay, this is why we care. This is the context. These are rules of the world, and then let's go. This is we've got action. Why do we have action? Because it's about story. It's about an arc. And you really do get this with James Gunn's new Suicide Squad. It's 10 times the movie of the 2016 version.
Oh, so you've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen the new Suicide Squad, and it is fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Like, what would you rate it? 1 to 10?
I mean, I don't believe in many movies going above a 9. So that is context.
Actually, yeah.
I would give it an 8.2.
Oh, yeah.
IMDb. But that film, why it hits so good is because it knows what it is from the get-go. It knows it's not a super serious film with some of the characters that you've got in there and some of the story beats, but it still goes, okay, we're kind of making a bit of a comedy that's kind of got a serious story running through it. We get introduced to a bunch of characters who feel like real dynamic characters. They've been given backstories that are strong. They've been given clear. They identify early what are the kind of flaws of these characters. Why are they struggling, or what's their purpose? And then becoming the Suicide Squad with their mission is this main purpose, right? We've got this bunch of hopeless, losers in jail, who are then forced into this kind of mission, and they have to kind of decide, like the main character who's played by Idris Elba has to decide throughout that film, am I going to stay what I've been my entire life, a gun for hire who has no real morals at the end of the day? or am I going to go, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not taking that order.
Right.
So you got that going on throughout the whole film.
So you see that. You see the character. You see his character arc, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's a clear one. You can understand it.
Yeah, there's that strong, like, and at the same time, you've got, like, they balance that out with, like, Rick Flag as a kind of patriot character who's got all this, you know, not much of a story, but kind of like I'll lead everyone through the story. He's kind of like the way in for the audience of, like, leading you through the story. But he's still a strong character. But then you got the whimsical characters like the Polka Dot Man and Harley Quinn and those that kind of balance the quite normal people throughout that film. But my point is that I mean, I feel like you could do a film class on Suicide Squad 2016 versus Suicide Squad 2021 and look at new vision, better execution. That's what you can take away from that film, because the two films at their core have good VFX most of the time. They have good costumes. There's obviously been money spent on sets and, you know, costumes, and the lighting's good. And at the end of the day, where the 2016 Suicide Squad fell was its script, its story. How important, Ryan, do you think? So you can
definitely feel the story. The story is the main concern. Like, it sounds kind of like cliche and sort of simple to say, but it's almost like we forget about it in some movies.
Well, it's a nuanced thing, right? It's in the back of your mind. It's not like you're sitting there going, "Oh, very, very good story."
yeah.
I mean, sometimes you do.
Well, what makes a good story, do you think?
Oh, that's a big question. I would say that what makes a good story is that I think we were talking about this. Weren't we talking about this? Was it last week we talked on the podcast? You mentioned briefly the hero arc.
Yeah. The hero's journey.
And you can, if you like film essays and that sort of thing, you should definitely look up. I think I'll link it in the description. There's like a Lord of the Rings Helm's Deep analysis of the story to show why that story has such a good story. And it's this kind of like, we kind of start winning the battle, and then, oh no, darkest hour, right into that point of where the audience is going, are they going to lose here? And then you kind of have this amazing jump up in the arc as some of the characters regain control of Helm's Deep. You have Gandalf and the army coming down that hill, and one of the best shots ever.
Yeah. And the soundtrack.
I need to watch a lot of the Rings again. That might just have to be a weekend. But it's about that path. You need to go in the beginning of a story. You need to go, okay, this is the world. The world doesn't, and this is the thing that really annoys me when people are like, that movie was unrealistic. It's like, great, thanks, man. Hold on, you telling me that we don't have King Kong versus Godzilla in real life?
Oh,
which is actually like, I actually enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong because, and this is something that I think we can talk about as a silly movie doesn't, or a movie that perhaps isn't silly but knows what it is, and clearly you can see in watching it knows exactly what it is and what it wants to do, and it doesn't care about
I think
like that movie.
It's like they lean into like that sort of we're gonna be laughed at, that sort of thing. Like, we know this is silly. The film, everybody working on the film knew that it was like a big silly thing, but it also I reckon. Yeah, actually, the story. I'm trying to think of the story of Godzilla versus Kong.
We've got what? We got Kong coming off Skull Island, like they've captured Kong. So we've kind of got that story arc of like God in chains. Wasn't the story that the little girl can speak to Kong? Wasn't that kind of part of the?
And
well, not
she's
speak.
deaf?
You know, like communicate. Yeah, because she's deaf. She like communicates like, you know, I can't. But wasn't that film? Godzilla was like destroying things and they had to figure out why, and it was like Do you remember that? It was like some frequency that was being put out or something that like made, and it was like the bad guys were trying to make Godzilla bad. I'm pretty sure that was the story. Was that not the? I don't know. Look, it's been a while, but it was a great film.
Yeah, I think that was. It's been a while.
But what we're saying about you create the world, right? The world needs to be realistic to itself, not to the real world.
Yeah, like have its own sort of law.
Yeah, its own rules of play. Like, don't watch Avatar and go, how could those islands be floating up there?
Yeah. What? Okay. What did you think of Avatar?
Like we're talking James Cameron Avatar,
James
right?
Cameron's, yeah.
Because I've been lectured a lot about not watching The Last Airbender. I've never watched.
Not the movie, but the series. Is that what you mean?
I haven't watched any of that universe.
I
started watching it with a partner, and then I watched like 3 episodes. It was good at the start. Anyway,
okay.
But Avatar's James Cameron. That film as well for me hits as a film before its time. Like, that is a good film. It's probably not as good as people rate it.
Yeah. Well, see, look, I've heard some like people majorly criticize Avatar, and I'm like, dude, what? I had like such a good. They were just like, it's such a like cliche story, and you knew that. Yeah, and I was like, serious? Like, this is like a revolutionary sort of milestone in filmmaking. And then it just kind of like, yeah, that was cool, but I don't know. Like, I just didn't like it. Just too action and like something about natives. Like, I don't know. And I was like, dude, no.
That movie is like so complex, right? Though, and it's like it gives you the story means something. And like, let's think about that movie as an example. Where from the get-go, we're given a reason to care about the events of the movie because we're kind of being shown subconsciously. I feel like Avatar reflects. It's like an anti-colonial sentiment throughout that movie. That like from its get-go, and even if you don't like appreciate that on like expressly, in the back of your mind you instantly go, they shouldn't be destroying the environment of the Na'vi and kicking them out of their natural habitat, and you instantly care even if you don't like on the top of it go. And then that film as well, it brings an interesting idea, and I guess that's another thing a story needs. It needs some kind of dynamic, something new, right? So that story really blends in an idea of what's human, right?
Because because a lot of the because the Na'vi and the humans could easily communicate with each other, but it seemed like both species couldn't understand each other. They didn't understand why what was it? Unobtavian or something?
Is it unobtainium or something?
Unobtainium, yeah. Which is like it's little clever thing in the script. You can almost imagine the script writers, or James Cameron actually just being like,
having a giggle about it. Yeah.
Unobtainium. Oh, they won't obtain it. Oh.
Do you think the film, though, at its core, with that kind of idea of like, is it about race? Is the film itself, or not particular, maybe not specifically race, but is it about culture v culture? Is that its core at the? Because what I feel like looking back on that movie, I didn't do this while watching it, but I feel like it's colonial v natural people. There was a very core thing there of, and as you said, a disconnect between understanding. They didn't understand how much the environment and the tree of life. What was that? Whatever that thing was called.
Tree of souls or something.
Yeah,
kind of butchering it. But
hey! It was. I don't know if you realize, but it's like 2008, 2009. Avatar came out.
Oh yeah, that's
and
true.
Man has not released the sequel yet. Man is still working.
Yeah, next year. Next year is the sequel.
I hope it's good,
from
man.
what I
Because
hear.
if they poo all over the original, that'll
yeah.
be. I think an interesting one as well. Have you've seen Snyder's Justice League?
Ooh, yeah, I have. I've seen it twice now. Twice.
Oh, I haven't watched it multiple times, mostly because it's so long.
Yeah,
Um,
it is quite long.
so I think another kind of interesting comparison is the Joss Whedon Justice League versus Snyder Justice League, because you really are looking at a very average movie in the original Justice League, versus what I would call a masterclass in the Snyder Justice League. That film is a fantastic film, and I am not really a fan of the DC like movie universe. And
But
I found
did
that
that
film great.
make you go like, okay, DC has a voice at least?
Well, it made me do that until I saw that like he's not going to make any more films.
Yeah, true.
So that
Wait,
kind of
he's
like
not making any more films. Zack Snyder.
I don't think he's participating in the next few films in the DC universe. You might have to confirm me on that, but I didn't think his artistic vision is going to be used in the next couple. But I guess shout out to Snyder as well for coming back and kind of executing on what he wanted to do with the original Justice League. Oh, dude, you know what got me? I cried in that film when I saw the Snyder Justice League. When towards the end, there's like a little "This is for," and it was his daughter.
Oh, for Autumn.
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone listening knows that unfortunately his daughter took her own life while he was working on what would become the Joss Whedon Justice League. So he stepped back from that film and they brought in Joss Whedon. Obviously, because Zack wanted to be with his family and mourn, and obviously he doesn't want to just work on a film during that time. But during that time, obviously, we see the loss of the creative vision of Zack. Because when you watch... I didn't actually watch the Justice League in... I don't even know when it was released. Was it 2017? Something like that? 2018?
Yeah.
But I flicked through it afterwards just because I was interested. The film is nothing alike. We're looking at you're essentially watching a new film. If you go and watch the Snyder Justice League, it might as well be a completely reshot new film.
Definitely. And I actually liked, I think in the new Justice League, it had, episode 1 or episode 2.
Yeah.
Or no, at chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, as if we were reading a comic book or maybe even like a series, like a TV series.
Well, that's the thing as well, right? Comic book. Another thing that kind of hits that for me is the 4:3 aspect ratio of Justice League, which, to be honest, was pretty jarring for the first like hour. But I think that kind of adds to the comic book vibe, and as well, I'll link as well. There's a great analysis by Corridor Crew on their channel of the VFX in the original Justice League versus what they did for the new one, and there's like a comparison between shots. And Freddie Wong on that video talks about the 4:3 aspect ratio being, he feels, as a way to make superheroes feel big on the screen. His argument was essentially that 16:9 makes humans look small and insignificant. When you're filming these characters in Justice League, we're really filming like gods among men. These aren't these regular people, I guess, except Batman. But and like we're talking about scripting today, that film goes like I haven't, like, I'm not a massive fan of the DC universe, but that film was able to kind of set up a massive 4-hour story without you really needing to know much from any of the other like films. And I think that's a great thing as well. Your film needs to be self-contained. It should be able to be watched. Maybe some of the little nuances and little stingers and things people might not pick up because they didn't watch, the last film. But it needs to go from A to Z and cover everything, right? And it's now that doesn't mean closure, right? We don't all need closure.
And you know, I think, but still, yeah, again, what you said, like having those little things from previous films and that sort of thing can really help those people. So it's like you can watch the same film on different levels. I actually think Guy Ritchie was talking about this, where he directed that new King Arthur, I think it was Legend of the Sword in 2017, and the Sherlock Holmes movies.
Did he do the ones with Robert Downey Jr.?
Robert Downey Jr., yeah.
They were both fantastic films. Man knows what he's...
Oh, yeah, definitely. And he kind of describes filmmaking, or just like a film it's so many things in one aspect. So there's a more literal view. You can watch it in a more literal view of like, okay, these characters do this and they've beat the bad guy and they finish their goals and they do their character arc. Great. Awesome. But then you can also watch it in a much more interpretive lens, and you can kind of watch it in more of like okay, so this is like a story of humanity, or you can watch this as like a story of what does it mean to be intelligent? What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be this? It's all about meaning, pretty much. And so I think a great film caters to both. You can watch it and just kind of like, almost like, not a mindless, but just sort of like, oh, cool.
Like a casual watching experience, right?
Yeah,
like
very casual. So casual viewers can enjoy it, as well as the more, maybe if you want to look more interpretive and think, really think things through philosophically or ideologically or conceptually or something like that, you can watch it like that. He tries to make his films like that, filled with action and filled with fun and that sort of thing, but still very much trying to keep to having perspectives being opened. Which 100%. I think Lord of the Rings did really well.
That's got rewatch value. That film.
When was the first time you watched Lord of the Rings?
I was pretty young. It wasn't in my like first kind of couple films. I started more with like my big films to kind of hit were like Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones, a lot of John Williams, Steven Spielberg productions. And then I think probably hit Lord of the Rings like maybe early high school or like late primary school.
Oh really? I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think watching those films as well, we kind of take for granted. I feel like we're not going to get films like that. And I guess maybe that's why I liked Justice League, Snyder's Justice League so much, because it felt like that kind of film. It felt like a Lord of the Rings film with just because of the quality in storytelling. Like it was a story that carried right through, that you gave a hoot about, and I know you can't control every audience member's reaction to your film, but if you can't get the majority of people to care from the first 10 minutes, they're not going to care for the rest of the film, right? So in Lord of the Rings, we're caring about the journey, taking the ring to Mordor, but we're also like, that's kind of the overall care. But at the same time, we're caring about the friendship between Sam and Frodo. Aragorn's path to who is he, and does he have any significance out of is he just a ranger, or is he got some extra path? Those stories mean something to us.
And the funny thing is, they were writing the script. They were doing a lot of the script rewrites right before shooting. Like literally they would do 30 seconds before shooting, and they'll be like, okay, let's change Aragorn's character just that little bit. Like I think the biggest comparison, I haven't actually read the books, but this is what I've been told. Aragorn's character, he's in the books, he's very much just like oh yeah, I'm the king, pretty much. Like
Oh,
he doesn't have this whole arc
in a battle.
yeah, he's like so confident already. He's just got he's pretty much like the perfect man. He's just always like, oh yep, I'll do that, no worries.
I'm glad I didn't read the book.
Yeah, and see how like the movie does it way better. Of like, okay, he actually, he has this sort of little arc of him being like, I don't want to accept responsibility just yet. Like, I don't know. He's very.
I'm just one person, I'm not responsible for all this. There's no duty on me to, why don't someone else do it? And it's that like hero arc, right? Of the person going, I'm nothing, getting into then a crisis, a struggle where someone needs to be a hero, and then Aragorn steps into those shoes. And that's like, if you were going to do a film essay on the perfect hero story, you could find heaps of them in Lord of the Rings at the end of the day.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Because I feel like as well, maybe it's our love for Lord of the Rings, but I feel like Aragorn is not, in the script at least, as significant a character as we probably give him. Like, I feel like we spend so much of the films with Frodo and Sam, who I care about, but like it's the other characters as well that kind of filled the story around, right?
And it's quite, man, like because these are hectic books. These are hectic world building books. Like Tolkien wrote these amazing books that are filled with detail and lore and that sort of thing. And then for a filmmaker to pick all that source material up and see like like Tolkien, he built the world, and he actually developed the languages before he even made and wrote any of the stories. I think he even described it as if he had picked up the stories from developing the languages of the world first, which is nuts to even consider. And so for a filmmaker to go into that, like into this sort of, it's a huge responsibility, and it's almost insane to even think about that this New Zealand filmmaker Peter Jackson and his wife pretty much just smashed it. They did a home run on it immediately, which is awesome to even consider.
I feel like it's his passion, right, for film at the end of the day, and for stories. Like, even he's still hitting like home runs with. I thought his Mortal Engines movie was good. Did you end up seeing that?
No.
I thought that was good. Again, he's obviously working with a material that was written as a book, so that kind of helps. But it doesn't. It helps with a movie like Lord of the Rings, a movie series like Lord of the Rings, but it does not just do your job for you.
Yeah.
I think we can compare that in a way to Game of Thrones. In that Game of Thrones was good while they had source material.
Yeah. They had.
Yeah.
Emphasis on had.
Emphasis on had. Don't at me, but the last season was not good. From a script writing point of view. And I think they could have learnt a lot from Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings, at the end of the day, as good as it is, I would argue that it's not. The story isn't ground. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a story that you. Oh my goodness, what? But it knew what it was trying to execute on, right? It set out. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have a story of these characters who have never seen adventure and are so young and naive and immature, and we're going to let them go out into the world, forced into kind of an adventure to become heroes. We're going to follow that journey. We're going to have conflict. We're going to have really dark times, and then we're going to rise up, and the heroes are going to win. And like, at the end of the day, only really Boromir falls out of the whole.
Yeah, because Gandalf gets resurrected. So
But
yeah.
I think Game of Thrones could have learnt from that in going, your solution to your story doesn't need to be never before seen, or the most obvious solution can be the best solution. Like some of the fan theories and even things like we've all said to each other while watching the last season would have been better endings to Game of Thrones than what they came up with. And I feel like they might have even just gone, oh, we want it to be so crazy and different that, we won't
Like
spoil
they were trying
the end
to be
of Game
unique.
of Thrones, but yeah, and like have something so different. The kind of clear betrayal of the last season I called at the start of the episode, like, and that's not bad. I loved that. I'm really glad that happened. But I feel like the rest of it just made me like the person who ended up on the Iron Throne. I wanted to die while watching that last episode.
And a particular character saying, "What if a democracy was,
look
implemented?"
Look, I didn't mind that, but the way that they did that, like executed on that, is like, what if we democracy?
Yeah,
no.
Oh, come on. Like, if they did
the
it
worst,
in a better way.
Yeah, like had a discussion of like, I don't know, have a big round table discussion of all the issues of the Iron Throne and what, No, let's just have one throwaway line and then just be like, everyone be like, oh, yes,
Oh,
democracy.
good idea. Yes.
Democracy manifest.
You know your judo well.
That's a good headlock. I feel like the line from that last season that kind of defines it for me and makes me giggle every time about how bad it was the why did you think I came this entire way?
Oh.
And I was like
oh, far out. Yeah,
bro, no.
See, just with the comparison between Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, and I guess the only reason why is because they're both in that fantasy genre.
Subject matter, very similar.
But very different stories, and what they're trying to say.
And tones.
Yeah, and tones, definitely. And yeah, I found, like, as you were, earlier, as you were describing the Lord of the Rings Helm's Deep battle, and, that sort of, like, darkest hour, and are our characters going to make it out of here? That sort of thing. Game of Thrones, what's his name? George Martin. He would be like, actually, no, that's like quite unrealistic. So all of these characters are going to die in this battle. Like that's the sort of thing he would do. He would set up this whole story of this, the beautiful, and tragic story of this character, and then just sort of see him die in the next season. And I think people loved that because
I loved it, but I hated it.
Yeah, we were so used to seeing Lord of the Rings copies, I guess, in other movies and other media of just the same old, like, okay, like, we know these characters are gonna live, like, they're gonna go down. And so I think the major appeal was like, okay, that uniqueness of like, okay, who's gonna die in this episode? Oh, we don't know. And I think they were really trying to cash in on that. Oh, yeah. Honestly, I feel for the filmmakers at the end. Even though they I know that they lasered about pretty much. I know they did that because I had another project lined up straight afterwards, and then they got cancelled because of doing a crap job with this one. But I really feel for just the pressure and the amount of plot lines. Like, they're convoluted and they're overarching each other, and there's just so much going on. So the like, what are their names? Wynoff and whatever his name was. Yeah, I feel for them, eh? Like, when the season ended for you, what happened in you? Were you like, what sort of reaction did you have, pretty much, with that?
Why did I watch 8 seasons of this show. That was honestly my reaction, because I know that you can go. I feel like TV watchers have a very different attitude, because they go, "Oh, the first couple seasons were good though," and I'm like, "Yeah, but who cares? That was like the first half of a story. Just because it's good doesn't mean the whole story is good."
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very critical of the last season of Game of Thrones, because you don't get extra room to not be criticized because it's a TV show. Actually, what you've done is you've taken even a greater risk, because you've got so much more time, and like, I'm trying not to get mad, but like the massive gap between the two.
Breathe. Game of Thrones is done. It's over. Actually, the prequel thing is coming out soon, so get ready for that.
I can't wait for them to try to like rewrite. It's not going to probably like, obviously not going to rewrite the seasons of Game of Thrones, but I'm sure there'll be like little bits they'll scatter in there, like, so this is why this happened.
I would love to see them like you can almost see the executives just being like, okay, let's see if we can do some weird time travel thing and like time travel forward and change a lot of the things. Yeah, but like they probably won't do that, but
maybe we need Zack Snyder's creative vision to come in.
Yeah, Zack, quick. He's like, okay, 4:3 aspect ratio.
Henry Cavill will be in the movie.
But he'll be playing as the Witcher.
Oh, I freaking love The Witcher, man. I could talk about that show a lot. Yeah. We should probably wrap this episode up, but we're definitely going to be talking about movies more in upcoming episodes. We might even get an actor on to talk about
an actor.
Essentially what we're saying is we will access our combined group of friends and try to exploit that for podcast gain. That's the plan. But thank you very much if you're still here listening to this episode. We very much appreciate it, and stay tuned for more great content.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode.